It says, will you go over the chapters and the Aleph bet? Yeah, I think there are no more questions, so let's do that. So let's go chapter 1. Obviously, I'm not going to read nothing. I'm just going to go one by one, and we already know what happens on each. So, um, and I'm sure, just in case, if we were to do this again in a week or a year later, we could add to it, no doubt. So this will be pretty much in a nutshell. So Revelation 1 is the introduction. It will be connected to the Aleph. So the Aleph, value 1, the letters that make it would be value 26. So it represents Yahweh, who is one, Yahweh Echad. It represents Yahushua the first, and it represents the last as the ox. In Revelation 1 is the introduction to the revelation, and we are told that Yahweh is sending his revelation through the first and the last. So as we see in the actual letter, which is the first of the Aleph Bet, like I said, is the introduction. He even mentions in verse 8, I am the Aleph and the Taf. So it begins the whole book mentioning the Aleph Bet or the Aleph Taf, for it represents this chapter, the Aleph. Also, the fact that Yahweh sends his prophecy so that Yohanan can write it down and for it to be revealed to us on earth. It's also represented by the Aleph, which is the connection between heaven and earth. And like I said, if we would have done this with every chapter after reading it, we would have remembered more details in each chapter that would connect with each letter, just so you know. If we go to chapter 2, Yahweh talks to the 7 congregations. In this case, half of the congregations in chapter 2 and the other half in chapter 3. Chapter 2 would be the letter Bet, which is a house. It is a temple, just like the congregations are his temple. So in chapter 2, for the temple, he speaks to the temple, to the congregations, and tells them how to act, how to be, what they should do, repent, and what they what they should repent of and what they should keep doing or do better. It is the chapter 2 starts with the messengers or the letters to the congregations, telling them how to fulfill the commandments. The commandments are written in the Torah, which starts with the letter Bet in Bereshit. Then here speaks to Ephesus and Pergamos and Thyatira. So there are 4 in this chapter. There are 4 congregations, like the first 4 lights in the menorah. And well, each of those congregations, as I already explained, represent some of the doctrines of nowadays. All of these 4 are doing things that they should change. So if we go to the next chapter, when Yahweh speaks to the rest of the congregations, which would be Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea, Philadelphia being the chosen few. This chapter would be connected to the Gimel, which represents movement. It is a foot. Let me see right there. A foot. It represents movement, and also is the value number 3. That's why chapter 3. So it connects to Yahweh's first and last. I already mentioned that number 3, how it connects with that. And in this chapter, we see the chosen few, who are those who will listen to the last and therefore be connected to the first in order to get to Yahweh. Therefore represents movement. The chosen few who are in the way to Yahweh, in the way Yahushua HaMashiach. I'm sure if we were to read them, like if I were to read the whole chapter, we would find here and there several other connections. This one, for instance, you see what I was saying? The Gimel represents a rich person. In fact, the Dalet represents a poor person. The Gimel is walking to the poor person to give him charity. That's why it represents the order in which they are in the Aleph Bet. So the Gimel is a rich person. And it also represents a Gamal, a camel. Gamal, camel. Look how similar they sound. So it is a camel. And that's why Mashiach, when he said that it is easier for a camel, in just a second to show you a greater connection. This is the Kuf, which represents the entrance to heaven. The Kuf is the entrance to heaven, and it is also a needle. So this is the eye of the needle. So Yahushua said, it is easier for a camel to enter the eye of the needle than for a rich person to enter to heaven. So these two letters are connected with both camel and rich person, and heaven and the eye of the needle. So the Gimel represents riches. And look how when Yahweh speaks to Laodicea, says, because you say rich I am, and I am made rich, and need not none at all, and do not know that you are wretched, and pitiable, and poor, and blind, and naked. So it talks about those people who won't be able to enter the kingdom of Yahweh because of their riches. That stops them from actually seeing how poor they are, spiritually speaking. So look how it mentions riches in the 3rd chapter. That has to do with riches as the 3rd letter. And just like that connection, there are several others, but I'm just trying to be direct with the overall representation or connection of the letter with the chapter. Chapter 4, that's so perfect. Listen to what it says. After this, I looked and I saw a door. The 4 letter is the Dalet, which is the door. Yahushua HaMashiach, the door, the Dalet. So after this, I looked and I saw a Dalet. I saw a door. I saw a Dalet having been opened in the heavens, for Yahushua opened it. And the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here and I shall show you what has to take place after this. So we see from the very beginning the connection with the door. So Yohanan is shown the heavens, and before the throne there was a sea of glass like crystal, and in the midst of the throne and around the throne were 4 living creatures, the numerical value of the Dalet. And the first living creature was like a lion, and the second living creature like a calf, and the third living creature had the face of a man, and the fourth living creature was like a flying eagle. So the number 4 surrounding the Father, Yahweh. So that will be 4. Then it'll go to 5. The 5th chapter in Revelation starts with, and I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, having been sealed with 7 seals. That is the 5th chapter. This is the letter Hey, which represents favor. It represents revelation. It represents a window. It represents the spirit. And it has the numerical value of 5. Represents a couple things. So in this chapter, the revelation itself is about to begin. Just like the number 5 is revelation. And I saw the letter Hey represents, is a person calling the attention of whoever sees him to look at something. In the pictographic, it is a person with his hands raised up. And I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside on the back, and having been sealed with 7 seals. So it starts revealing, letter Hey, about the book of life, in which those who found favor, letter Hey, are written. In fact, here is where it is revealed to Yohanan that the only one who can open that book is the Lamb, Yahushua, who came to give us the Ruach, the letter Hey. Well, just one more thing with this, I guess. The letter Hey has this part, which is like a dalet, and then this part, which is like a foot, but it's not connected to the top. So it is also representing, in a way, heaven and earth. Also, like I said, a window, and it has an opening on top and an opening on the bottom, which has also other connections. But I say that because, as it says in verse 13, and every creature which is in the heaven and on the earth and under, though because it has a bottom, under the earth, and such as are in the sea, and all that are in them, I heard saying to him sitting on the throne and to the Lamb be the blessing and the respect and the esteem and the might forever and ever. And it says, every creature which is in the heaven and on the earth and under the earth, and such as are in the sea, and all that are in them. 5, the numerical value of the letter Hey. So then chapter 6 is when the book is actually open by the Lamb and the seals begin. The seals begin. The Vav is the value 6. That would be the letter connected to this chapter. The letter represents a human, a man standing up, a male. So it represents the Son of Man. The chapter 6 reveals how during the first seal, the Son of Man, the Vav, is revealed on the earth. The Vav is the number 6. On the 6th day, man was made in Genesis. So man was created on the 6th day. On the 6th chapter, the Son of Man appears on earth, is sent as the messenger. And there are 5 of the seals mentioned here. So, well, let me see. I'm sorry, 6 of the seals, which is perfect, right? Because 6 seals are mentioned on Revelation 6, which is connected to the Vav, which has value 6. And the earth starts to be hurt by the plagues, which are connected to how the nail hurt Mashiach, for instance. So I will continue with number 7, even though, of course, there are more things that could be said. Yes, last one. In the 6th seal is when we will end the 6th millennium. So during the 6th seal, the 6th millennium ends. So once again, the number 6 connected with the chapter. For we get to the year 6000 during the 6th seal. So hope that's clear. Revelation 7, we have a weapon, a sword, and a female with a crown. A female, but also a man with a crown. For the wife is the crown of the man. So it can be seen as a man with a crown, or as a female, or as a weapon. Numerical value 7. In chapter 7, it starts saying, and after this, I saw 4 messengers standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another messenger coming up from the rising of the sun, holding the seal of the living Elohim, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 messengers, to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea. A weapon is made to harm. So starts talking about the 4 malachim to whom was given power to harm the nations and the many. Not only that, it talks about how the chosen few will be sealed. And I heard the number of those who were sealed 144,000 sealed out of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Those 144,000 are the wife of the Lamb, the bride, who will become the crown of the Son of Man. So it talks about the 144,000 who are the bride, female. It talks about the angels who will harm the nations, a weapon. It talks about the few who will be taken from 7 congregations, who will become pretty much the congregation of Philadelphia. So the 144,000, it mentions each of the tribes, 12,000 from each. And then it mentions the many. Verse 9, and after this I looked and I saw a great crowd which no one was able to count, out of all the nations and tribes and peoples and tongues, and standing before the throne. And later it says that they were the ones who came out of the great tribulation. These are those coming out of the great distress, says Revelation, verse 14 of Revelation 7. They came out of the great tribulation. How? They were killed by the sword. The letter Zayin. Then we go to chapter 8. In chapter 8, the 7th seal is open, and there is silence. The letter Het is the value 8, and it is a wall separating. Just like here, by opening the 7th seal, there is a separation made through the half an hour of silence. There is a separation made because now the trumpets are the ones that will be happening, the plagues that will happen through the blowing of the trumpets. So Het is a wall, a separation. For now, in this chapter, we separate the seals from the trumpets. The 8th represents a new beginning. Now the trumpets are about to begin. So first, the first 4 trumpets are mentioned at the end, the first 4 trumpets. So, well, yeah, mainly the fact that it is a new beginning, for the trumpets begin and they start doing things similar to what happened during the seals. So it is a new beginning. And like I said, there is a clear separation after the 7th seal is open. There is silence, and there is, as it says here, and there were noises and thunders and lightnings and an earthquake. Noises and thunders and lightnings and an earthquake. And then 4 trumpets sound. 4 plus 4, we have 8, the numerical value of the letter. Then we go to 9. Chapter 9 would be the Tet. The Tet is a serpent, and it is a basket. It's also a basket where you put a serpent. Those that go that are enchanted to the flute. So chapter 9 has to do with the 2 last, well, the 5th and the 6th trumpet. The last is the 7th. But in chapter 9, we have the 6th and the 7th. And what is the 6th? The bottomless pit is open for a serpent to come out. So the bottomless pit is open like a basket for the serpent to come out, like the serpent that is, that this letter represents. Hope you can see it. So the bottomless pit will be open, just like the basket is open, the letter, and a serpent will come out, Azazel, Abaddon, Apollyon, which is represented also by this letter. The 6th trumpet will be another army that will bring a lot of destruction for the serpent. So this chapter has a lot to do with what the serpent will destroy on this earth. And also, of course, we read that it says, for the authority of the horses is in their mouth, and their tails are like serpents. So serpents are actually mentioned in the chapter. Then we go to chapter 10. And we have the letter Yud, the first letter of the name of Yahweh. And it is a letter that doesn't touch the bottom. It is as floating, represents therefore the heavens, the celestial perfection, number 10, the 10 sayings that Yahweh, through which Yahweh created everything. Let there be light, this and that. Also the 10 commandments, of course. And the hand of Yahweh. Here it says, and I saw another strong messenger coming down from the heaven. That messenger represents the hand of Yahweh coming down from the heavens, like the Yud is on top as the heavens. And there is a revelation given to Yohanan, which he cannot write down, but it could be said to be the revelation for the new world. Just like in the Torah, the revelation for this world, they were given 10 commandments. So, and it's one of the strong messenger coming down from the heavens, rubbed in a cloud and a rainbow on his head, and his face was like the sun, and his feet like columns of fire. And having in his hand a little book open, and he placed his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. And well, it continues, but it is a revelation. It is all positive, just like the Yud is a very important letter, as it is the first letter of the name of the Almighty Creator and the first letter of the name of the Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. Well, just in case also, and the messenger, verse 5, and the messenger whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land, lift up his right hand to the heaven. So both right hand and heaven are connected with the Yud. And swore by him who's connected with the Yud, who lives forever and ever, who created the heaven and what is in it, the earth and what is in it, and the sea and what is in it. So then chapter 11 has to do with the two witnesses. The 11th letter is the Kaf, which has the numerical value of 20. 20 and the Kaf represent kingdom, the crown, the throne, something that surrounds. And we see here in Revelation 11 that the witness like Moshe, who will become king, who will become the throne, who will establish the kingdom on this earth, will manifest. The calf is also the palm of a hand. So the hand of Yahweh will be manifested on this earth during Revelation 11. The witness, well, the witnesses in this case, the whole Revelation 11 has to do with the two witnesses and the seventh trumpet, when the chosen few will be taken up. And I put this in the sense that they will surround Mashiach finally after the seventh trumpet. And in the sense of the two witnesses, the fact that, well, numerical value 20, they are two who bring the 10 commandments of Mashiach, of Yahweh. And the fact that through them, the two witnesses, Yahweh will establish his kingdom on this earth, as it is prophesied in Daniel 2. Also in Revelation 11, we see at the end that the ark of the covenant is seen within the temple. The ark is represented by the calf, for this is the throne, and the ark is the throne of Yahweh in the temple. Verse 19, and the dwelling place of Elohim was open in the heavens, and the ark of his covenant was seen in his dwelling place, and there came to be lightnings and voices and thunders and an earthquake and great hail. Revelation 12 would be the letter Lamed, which has the numerical value 30. Revelation 12 has to do with, well, look how this is the Lamed, the only letter that goes up. Of all the letters, this is the only letter that goes up. So chapter 12 has to do with the chosen few going up to the heavens when they receive wings like an eagle during the harvest, during the seventh trumpet. The seventh trumpet was meant. So the Lamed is the numerical value 30, is the only letter that goes up. In Revelation 12, the chosen few who follow Mashiach, who started his ministry when he was 30, and who listened to the last, who is the good shepherd, represented by the Lamed, is a shepherd rod, pretty much. The chosen few who follow Mashiach, who started his ministry at 30, who listen to the last, who is the good shepherd, will finally receive wings of an eagle to go up to the heavens during the harvest after, or actually during the seventh trumpet, after they flee to the mountains. And when the seventh trumpet is heard, at least in the heavens, they will be gathered. So Revelation 12 once again has to do with the woman who goes to the desert during the second Exodus. And verse 5, listen to this. And she bore a male child who was to shepherd letter Lamed, all nations with a rod, Lamed again. And her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne. So shepherd and rod in chapter 12, that is connected with the Lamed, who is the shepherd and the rod. And not only that, it goes up like the chosen few will go up. When it says, and the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness to her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time. To fly into the wilderness, go up like the Lamed goes up. Then we go to chapter 13 that has to do with the 2 beasts that will appear on earth, the world leader and the religious leader, the false prophet. The letter would be the mem, which has the numerical value of 40. It says, and I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. So a beast coming out of the water. Ma'im is water. Ma'im starts with a mem. The mem represents water. So Yohanan saw water when he came to this chapter, and the beast came out of that water. When he talks about the second beast, it says, and I saw another beast coming out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb. The lamb is Mashiach. Mashiach starts with a mem. So this religious leader, the false prophet, will teach falsehood regarding Mashiach, will lead everybody away from the true Mashiach and to follow the false Messiah. So we see the beast coming out of the sea. Also, the beast is given 42 months to reign. The numerical value is 40. Also, the 2 beasts would appear at the end of the 40 jubilees. Numerical value is 40. So also it is the chapter speaks about the image of the beast. The image of the beast will be the false Messiah. Once again, Messiah has as its first letter the letter mem. So they will create a false Mashiach, a mem. If we go to chapter 14, which is the harvest of the few and the many, as the wheat and the grapes, the few who have the name of the Father and the Son. The letter would be the Nun, which has the numerical value 50. 50 is connected to the Yobel, or the Jubilee, which is the time of freedom in which the chosen few will be after the harvest. So the 50 is connected to how they will reach freedom, redemption after the Jubilee. Also, the chosen few will follow the son of Nun. The son of Nun is, or I should say, the last is a descendant of Nun. Nun, who came from Ephraim, who came from Joseph. Nun is the name of this letter. So the chosen few will be gathered in Mount Zion by following or after following the son of Nun. After the Jubilee, they will be redeemed, for they receive the seed. The Nun is a seed, and the seed is the word of Yahweh, and the word of Yahweh is the name of Yahushua. So Yahushua is the seed which they received, those who are chosen for the harvest. So, and I looked and I saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 having his father's name written upon their foreheads. Here it says his father's name. Another translation has his name and his father's name, Yahweh and Yahushua. And I heard a voice out of the heaven. And just in case, we saw in Revelation 3 how Yahushua said, I will write my new name on their foreheads. So if the name of the last will be on their foreheads, we of course should understand that the name of the first will be their first. So I incline for the interpretation that says his name and his father's name. For the name of Mashiach was the name given to men through which they can be saved. So it is necessary to be for it to be on our mind. And I heard a voice out of the heaven, like the voice of many waters and like the voice of a loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. Look how verse 8 says, and another messenger followed saying, Babel is fallen, Babel is fallen. The nun is the letter, the first letter of the verb nafal, which is to fall. So it represents a fallen one. That's why Babel falls and is mentioned to have fallen on this chapter, which is connected to the letter that has to do with falling. Also connects with a cloud, and it says, and I looked and I saw a white cloud, and sitting on the cloud was one like the son of Adam. And well, that's when the harvest happens, which is interesting because Shavuot is a feast of harvest, and Shavuot is a feast that happens on the 50th day after counting 7 weeks, 49 days. The 50th is Shavuot. So it is connected with it as it is the harvest. And that is the moment when that which was promised during Shavuot will finally manifest in every way possible. And the many are thrown in the winepress of the wrath, thrown, so they fall there. Once again, the noon. If we go to the next chapter, that would be chapter 15, which it says, and I saw another sign in the heavens, great and marvelous, 7 messengers having the 7 last plagues. So the plagues, the last plagues come, the last and the last 3.5 years of the last week of Daniel. The letter would be the Samech. Samech, value 60. Samech is a circle. So it represents how the 7 plagues will go to the whole world, to the whole circle of the earth, as it is written in Isaiah. So to the whole circle, the plagues will surround everybody. This is also the letter, the first letter of surround in Hebrew. So when I saw another sign in the heaven, great and marvelous, 7 messengers having the 7 last plagues, for the wrath of Elohim was ended in them. Ended as a circle, one is closed. And I saw like a sea of glass mixed with fire. A sea of glass, like for instance, the sea of brass that was found in the temple, which happened to be a circle. And those overcoming the beast in his image and his mark and the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, holding harps of Elohim. And they sing the song of Moshe, the servant of Elohim, the song of the Lamb, and great and marvelous are your works, El Shaddai, righteous and true are your ways, O sovereign of the set apart ones. So that's when the chosen few sing. And after this, I looked and I saw the dwelling place of the tent of witness in the heavens was open. And out of the dwelling place came the 7 messengers, having the 7 plagues, dressed in clean, bright linen, and having their chests girded with golden bands. The Samech is a support also. That's why it's after the noon. So the noon who falls can be supported by the Samech. It's also a shield. So we see here how the chosen few will already be supported over the firmament, supported by Yahweh, and will be shielded from all of the last 7 plagues. Then we go to the next one, chapter 16. That will be the letter Ayin. The letter Ayin has the numerical value 70. 70 is the number of the nations. It's a number that is connected to the nations, even though now there are many, many more nations than 70. They all started from 70. So it is interesting that here's when the 7 plagues happen to all nations, to the whole world that is left on this earth, just like the 70 is connected to nations. The letter Ayin, that word Ayin means eye. So the Ayin represents an eye. So when I heard a loud voice from the dwelling place saying to the 7 messengers, go and pour out the bowls of wrath of Elohim on the earth. So in this chapter, we go all the way to the 7th last plague. So all plagues are thrown on the earth, and the all-seeing eye will finally lose its power. As it says that, let me see for a moment, during the 5th last plague, it says, and the 5th messenger poured out his bowl on the throne of the beast, and his reign became darkened. The throne of the beast will be under the all-seeing eye, the Ain. Also, Ain, other than being an eye, is a fountain of water, like a river which came out from a fountain. So, interestingly enough, we read verse 12, and the 6th messenger poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up. So the water of the Ain, of that fountain, will be dried up, not the water of life, which is eternal, but the water of this world will dry up, the water of that Ain. And his water was dried up in order to prepare the way of the sovereigns from the east. So the water of the river Euphrates will be dried up. The Ain is a fountain of water that will be dried up, just like Ain is an eye that will be blinded. Lucifer will lose its power, and therefore its doctrines will have no water. Look how verse 19 says, and the great city became divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babel was remembered before Elohim. Babel was the place where the 70 nations started, because all the people decided to make a tower, but then Yahweh came down, destroyed the tower of Babel, and divided the people into 70 nations. So there is reminding us of Babel, where the 70 started. Verse 17 will be connected to the letter Pei, which is a mouth. The letter Pei, numerical value 80. 80 and a mouth. And verse 1 says, and one of the 7 messengers who had the 7 bowls came and spoke with me. Now I know it doesn't say mouth, but obviously he spoke with his mouth, saying to me, come and I shall show you the judgment of the great whore sitting on many waters, with whom the sovereigns of the earth committed whoring. So it starts talking about the destruction of the great whore of Babylon, who had fooled with her doctrine all the nations, giving her to drink with their mouths the wine of her idolatry. And it says several times what they are saying, what the people that love that great whore are saying because of their destruction, saying with their mouths, of course. And it also says, and upon her forehead a name written, a secret, I'm sorry. And upon her forehead a name written, a secret, Babel the Great, the mother of the whores and of the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the set apart ones. So she drank their blood, just like this is a mouth that will be needed to drink. It says, for Elohim did give it into their hearts to do his mind, to be of one mind, and to give their reign to the beast, until the words of Elohim shall be accomplished, until what he said with his mouth shall be accomplished. We'll go to next chapter. Look how it says in verse 17 still, that has to do with the mouth, which we use to speak. It says, and he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast covered with names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Names of blasphemy, the names that people use to worship and invoke and pray, not knowing that they are actually blaspheming. Those are the names found on the head of the great whore, the names that people are speaking with their mouths. In contrast to that, if I go real quick to chapter 14, look what it says about the chosen few. And in their mouth, verse 5, was found no falsehood. In their mouth was found no falsehood, for they are blameless before the throne of Yahweh. Not those who follow the whore. Their mouths are filled with lies and falsehood and names of blasphemy. Then I guess next chapter was 18, right? Chapter 18 continues with the whore, destroying the whore of Babylon. Starts with, and after this, I saw another messenger coming down from the heaven, having great authority, and the earth was lightened from his steam. This is the letter Sadiq, the Sadiq, which is the righteous one. So look how it's talking about the messenger that will come bringing righteousness, the son of righteousness. And after this, I saw another messenger coming down from the heaven, having great authority, and the earth was lightened from his steam, like the son of righteousness. Righteousness represented by the Sadiq or the Sadeh. Value 90. This represents a righteous person. It represents also a way to the Father, the way of the Father, which is the righteous one. Also here we see that it says, come out of her, my people, lest you share her sins and lest you receive of her plagues. This is the way out. Yahushua is the way. Righteousness is the way. So Yahweh is telling them, come out of her. How? Through the way that he made for them to become righteous. For verse 5 says, because her sins have piled up to reach the heavens, and Elohim has remembered her unrighteousness, her lack of righteousness. So then look how verse 23 says, and the light of a lamp shall not shine in you anymore at all. After talking about the one who represents the son of righteousness. So the New Jerusalem will have spiritual light eternally. This great whore will not have even physical life. Physical light ever again. She will be not only blind in the spiritual, but also in the physical. In the sense that it says, and the light of a lamp shall not shine in you anymore at all. Then we go to verse 19, and that will be the letter Kuf, which, like I said, represents the entrance to heaven. So look how it says, and after this I heard a loud voice and a great crowd in heaven, in the heaven. That is the Kuf, the entrance to heaven. That also represents the end of time. I also said the eye of the needle, but in this case, we'll have to see if we find anything that connects with it. But we see that starts talking about heaven. The Kuf is the heaven. Hallelujah. Deliverance and esteem and respect and power to Yahweh our Elohim, because true and righteous are his judgment, because he has judged the end. He has judged the great whore and corrupted the earth with her whoring. And he has avenged on her the blood of his servants shed by her. Shed by her, like the Kuf, is the only letter that goes down the line. Like the blood shed by her. Then we have the wedding of the Lamb. Once again, connected to the heavens. And then we read after it, it said, verse 11, and I saw the heavens open. Once again, the heavens open like the Kuf. And there was a white horse, and he who sat on him was called trustworthy and true. And in righteousness he judges and fights. He comes to fight in the war of Harmagedon, which is the end of the end of the last 7 years. And the armies in the heavens, dressed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. Well, just also remember that I said that it represents the end of time, because in the pictographic, it is the sun going in the horizon, like going over the horizon. So it represents the afternoon, the end of the day. So we read here that it says, and I saw one messenger standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds that fly in mid-heaven, come and gather together to the supper of the great Elohim. So the sun is going down like the Kuf, because it's the end of time, the war of Harmagedon, and they are being called to the supper of the Lamb, the supper of the great Elohim, for they will eat the flesh of all those who will die on that war. So once again, the end of time, the sun coming down, the Malach telling everybody to get ready for the supper. Then we go to chapter 20. And I saw a messenger coming down from the heavens, having the key to the pit of the deep and the great chain in his hand. The letter that would connect with this is the Resh, which has the numerical value 20. The Resh is a head. A head. So we see here how everything is being already, well, for instance, we go, let me see. It talks about the 1,000 years. Look how it says, and I saw thrones and they sat on them and they sat on them, and judgment was given to them who are the heads of the new world, and the lives of those who had been beheaded because of the witness they bore to Yahushua and because of the word of Elohim, who did not worship the beast nor his image and did not receive his mark upon their foreheads, like the Resh. But mainly the fact that the chosen few and the martyrs will be there ruling as heads of the new creation. Then the head will judge the world. And also Resh represents Rashid, or beginning. And we see how here, after the judgment, after the last judgment, at the end of the 7,000 years, there will be a new beginning, a new earth and a new heavens, as we will see in 21. So a new beginning, then comes the new heavens and the new earth on Revelation 21, which would be connected with the letter Shin. Letter Shin is fire and change, because fire changes things. So fire, change. And we see, and I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth. So there is a change of earth and a change of heavens. For the former heavens and the former earth had passed away. How? Through fire. As we know that during the flood was through water, now fire is the one that will be used to bring in new heavens and a new earth. So it says, he shall dwell with them. You see how it has three parts. The numerical value is 300. He shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them, to be their Elohim. Talks about him being on the throne, and that throne is the fire. For Yahushua, the temple is the water, the last is the throne, he is the fire. And fire is mentioned regarding the throne several times in scriptures. We read about the New Jerusalem coming down. Shin is part of the Jerusalem, of course. And verse 23 says, and the city had no need of the sun, Shemesh, with the Shin. Shemesh begins with a Shin, ends with a Shin. Shemesh is sun. So, and the city had no need of a Shemesh, nor the moon, nor of the moon to shine in it, for the steam of Elohim, like the fire, will give light to it. And the Lamb is its lamp, through the last, who is the consuming fire. And the gate shall not be shut at all by day, for night shall not be there, for there always be a fire to give light. And they shall by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, for he would get burned. Neither anyone doing abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. And finally, the Tav, which we already saw, and I explained during the study. But just like in the first chapter, Mashiach says he is the first and the last, the Alef and the Tav. So in the first we have Alef, and here we have Tav. Plus, in this chapter, Mashiach speaks about sending the last as the witness to give testimony of the tree or the cross, which is the pictographic sign that represents the Tav. And that is the very end of the end. So I hope that was clear.